Welcome back to Fast Market here on the TD Ameritrade Network. Let's bring in our next guest for our cash tag segment, and that's going to be Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Hey, thank you.
All right, so we're talking high-end outerwear. It's colder than anything here in Chicago, down to about 0 over the last couple days. Probably need those, but I'm hearing like overseas weather's better than expected. China was on lockdown. Are you guys seeing any positive data out of Canada Goose into earnings? Because it seems like we've had a mild winter here in Chicago, even though it's cold this week. But does that equate to maybe less people buying this according to your data?
Yeah, so it's kind of a confluence of trends. I think you've kind of hit that weather is a factor for a company like Canada Goose, and we are seeing the company perform pretty well. If we look at global page views, so the number of people just visiting Canada Goose's website, you can see the cyclical nature of this as it starts to get cold. People start looking for these types of coats and jackets, and I am actually a little bit surprised to see, given the weather patterns that you've talked about, the mild winters we've had, that they've been able to achieve some growth in this cycle compared to last year. I really kind of expected it to be down. But the reason I think for that is really kind of a bigger picture, and that is the consumer in the high-end side of things, the luxury side of things, the consumers of affluence are doing very, very well. Inflation, interest rates tend to impact these consumers less than the rest of the world, and it really shows. If we look at high-end apparel, mentions of people going upscale in terms of their fashion choices and their clothes, we're at all-time highs according to LikeFolio data. And I think COVID was a little bit of a break point for that, where people decided, once they were able to get back out and about, they were going to look good. They were going to spend money and make sure that they made the most out of every outing. And so Canada Goose, I think, is getting hit a little bit by those weather patterns that you mentioned. It's just not as cold as early as many expected, and then probably as the company expected. But they're benefiting from the larger macro trend of people just wanting to go upscale, and these are expensive coats. I'm sure, Tom, that's why you said before the break you weren't going to buy one, because I know how you like to save a dime. But Canada Goose, very expensive coats, and in the right place right now. Expensive is where you want to be in fashion.
Andy, there's a lot going on with this company. Some of it is trading wise, and some of it is more into the consumer, like we talk about on this show a lot, which is their margins are big and going higher because, just like Nike, they're going to more digital, direct-to-consumer purchases. Now, their expansion into Japan, into South Korea, it's capturing that high-end customer. Tom was right. China is vitally important to this country because that's where, with so many retail products like this, a lot where their growth is going to be. But this is also a company, last December, is buying back 10% of their outstanding shares. So this is a company that believes in itself, Andy, and again, the fundamentals are there with the direct-to-consumer moving and the growth into other countries. This company, even though they seem very narrow in what they sell, they sell big parkas and puffy jackets, but they have a big following and they continue to grow, don't they?
Yeah, and they're a status symbol. I think when people see that Canada Goose logo, it conveys something about the person wearing the jacket, and a lot of people like that. Enough people to make it worth buying, a $1,000 coat. And I do think that they work really well. They're going to keep you warm. They're very well made. And so, when we look around, this theme in general, Canada Goose is one of many companies that has benefited from this known shift to luxury or high end. There's On Holdings, which owns the running shoes, ticker symbol ONON. They own the running shoes that are high end. Revolve Fashion, even Lululemon. These stocks are up significantly since October. Canada Goose is up, I think, 41% since October. So it's had a really nice run. I'm not sure going into earnings if the run has been a little bit overdone, but for the long-term investor, I think that looking at these names where their customers have money and are a little bit less likely to be impacted by interest rates is the smart play longer term.
Yeah, I mean, this stock's back to levels we haven't seen since, about 2.5 years ago. We've come off of those lows. You mentioned that the stock's up, 25% over, down 25% over the last year, but still up about 35% so far this year. But Andy, compared to a lot of the competitors, right? Do they have that Lululemon type of mindset from the consumer that I'm willing to pay a little bit more against other competitors, not only the status symbol, but because of happiness? Is that one of the key data points that you guys look at, right?
Yeah, it's really one of these companies that has a really sharp dichotomy between the people that own the jackets and that buy the jackets and wear the jackets. They love them. Their consumer happiness is very high. The brand loyalty is very high. The people that don't own them, and especially some of the activists like PETA and others that get involved, they really hate this company and talk very badly. But I think Canada Goose knows, as well as anybody, that its bread is buttered by the people that buy its products, not by the people who talk bad about them. And so they continue to make high quality items that portray a certain level of exclusivity or wealth to the world when you wear one. And that's their customer base, and they're sticking to it. And I think so far they're doing a really good job. Yeah,
it shows the resilience of the upscale consumer, and they're willing to spend at this point. And then you got the market back up. Wealth effect takes a hold. You can afford one of these. Do you have an earnings score going into this report, Andy?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're neutral. I like this company, but the stock has already moved so much since we started some bullish coverage of it last October. I think we're kind of played out on this run, but we get a dip on earnings like we saw with Lulu, and I start to really like it around $20 or so.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's been a theme this earnings season. The run-up that we've seen doesn't make me want to buy it here because it's up, double digits, 20, 30% in a month. All right, great stuff as always, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that's Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio, breaking down the data in Canada Goose.